Holy shit. He said what?
Democrats still seem confused as to why they lost this election. They want to think it has something to do with misogyny or racism. Well, let me clear it up for those still bewildered Democrats. You lost because you tried to tell the American people that the economy was great when they couldn't afford to buy groceries. You lost because you ran a moron in place of a president you knew was a corpse attached to a car battery. You lost because you lied about January 6th, calling it worse than Pearl Harbor or 9/11. You lost because men can't have babies, women don't have, and free speech isn't a privilege like a driver's license. It's a God-given right guaranteed by our Constitution. You lost because you fired doctors, nurses, scientists, and frontline workers for refusing to take an experimental gene therapy because my body, my choice only counts if it's about abortion.
Say there's terrorists in a school. Do we bomb our children? Do we bomb the kids? How many innocent lives? About 300. How many bad guys? Just 6 of them. Bomb it all! Yeah! Well, October 7th. Hey, what about the hospitals? There's 3 or 4 bad guys in there. Bomb it all! Yeah! What kind of sick mentality is that? If my neighbor does horrific things in my home, do I get to massacre my entire neighborhood and then decide, you know what? Now I'm going to go to Bonita Springs, and then I'm going to go to Georgia, and then I'm going to convince America that we should fight another country and take that leader out because I said they're bad. Makes you wonder who's running our country.
The lesson of The Lord of the Rings wasn't like, we really need some common sense regulations about how you use this ring, right? Like, the lesson is that you have to destroy this thing. And that's tough. I'm not saying that's easy. I don't know who our Frodo is, but...
This is the Shire. I mean, look at it. It can't get any more beautiful than this. And it stands in stark contrast to what lies beyond those hills. Eastward is Mordor. And I mean, Washington, D.C. When I go there, there's no greenery like this. Man has tried to create something as magnificent as these hills, but he's failed, really, in D.C. to do that.
So Thomas Massey calls Washington, D.C. Mordor. How great is that? Welcome back, everybody, to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello, and let us go into the breach. I want to comment on your always interesting opening clips that you decide to put together. Rob Schneider, absolutely right. I mean, to me, there's nothing really to talk about there. That was just common sense. That wasn't even him being so overtly a conservative or Republican or Christian. Or he's just saying, you ran on this stuff.
That's just observation, and they're right.
Right. I mean, he must be watching the front line with Joe and Joe, because we said that a long time before he became a Republican. We were saying, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at all-time highs. People can't buy a loaf of bread. The Democrat, people can't afford to put gas in their car, and the Democrats are telling you everything is just A-okay. Now, let's remember, too, I don't know where the big switch came in. When I was growing up, Wall Street, those Republican white shoe wasps, and all that. And that's what Wall Street was. Wall Street's in the pockets of the Democrats now and the oligarchs. The Democrats do Wall Street's bidding. You think you could do major reform on Wall Street if the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate? Now, the Republicans are bad enough, and we know that they're not going to do anything for the most part to disrupt Wall Street. I would say, why not? Why not? They hate your guts, too. They give more money to Barack Obama than they did to one of their own, Mitt Romney. You remember that?
Well, ultimately, Joe, I mean, I could remember when the Dow was at like 10,000. Now it's like, what is it, 45,000? Wall Street sold out to the oligarchs. You said that very correctly. It's run by hedge funds. It's run by private equity. It's run by huge 401ks. Ultimately, and the corporations have completely abandoned the worker. They're bringing in foreign labor, which is obviously done on the cheap. They got rid of pensions. And keep this in mind, only 12% of the country owns 87% of the stock market. The other 12% owns not that much. And then, frankly, the lower 50 own nothing. That's a statistic. Look that up. The lower half of America don't own a share. We have been sold out.
Yep.
The regular worker has been completely sold out by both the Republicans and the Democrats due to the lobbies. We no longer have a piece of the pie. The country is becoming more and more like a pyramid. That's how the rest of the world is, and America is becoming that. And that's why Mandani is going to win, because he's basically saying to people, particularly the people who are under 40, and Mandani, in case people who don't know who that is, that's going to be the next mayor of New York City, who's a communist. He's basically saying to people under 40 who are living in their parents' basement in Staten Island, living in apartments that they can't afford, he's basically saying they can't pay their student loans back. He's basically saying the system doesn't work, and he's right. He's just selling them a bad bill of goods because our system has been sold out. That's where me and Bernie Sanders completely agree. We just don't agree on the solution. But the statement is spot on, and that's why Mandani is going to win. And I got news for you. If the Chamber of Commerce Republicans don't wise up, Mandani is going to spread across the entire country. You're going to get redder than red states like Kentucky, like Kansas. When people are living in trailer parks, they don't have insurance, they don't have pensions, Social Security doesn't cover it, they're going to start voting for the Mandanis. That is a reality. And if people don't wise up to that, Charlie Kirk said that very clearly on Tucker Carlson. I invite everyone to listen to that interview. It took place about a month ago. He said, if the Chamber of Commerce Republicans don't wise up, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I'm telling people that. That is real. They just can't get it through their head. They can't get it through their head. They're like, I made it happen. Well, the country isn't what it was. It went through COVID. Inflation is off the charts. Housing has gone up infinitely more than it was when I bought a house or when many of the people who are older than me bought a house. College is unaffordable, and frankly, it's not worth the price tag because the jobs aren't there, and they're going to disappear even more with AI. Yet the Chamber of Commerce Republicans tell themselves, oh, if I did it, they can do it. Well, guess what? That mentality is going to bring you Mandani, and before you know it, you're going to have a Mandani for the president, and then it's over.
Well, let me tell you something about the Chamber of Commerce people and the ones who want to always talk about what, and you think, in their mind, they think, well, I made mine, like you just said. I made mine. I'm safe. No, see, Mandani's a communist. And if you had communists running this country in any sort of real power, you think you're just talking about paying higher taxes, dude? Communists, and we've seen this, we saw this in the 20th century. They will come in, they'll kill you, your entire family, they'll take over, and they'll seize all of your assets and appropriate them for the state. What are you talking about? You got yours. You're not protected if guys like Mamdani have real power in America. But here's what you got. You showed a guy in the first clip, all right? Frodo, Thomas Massey, all right? You see a House of Representatives full of Thomas Masseys and a Senate full of Rand Pauls, and the Chamber of Commerce Republicans are going to have to get some regulation put on them too. Wall Street is going to have to get some real regulation put on it. We talk about it a million times. BlackRock should be broken up. No way a company should own or run $10 trillion.
Stop right there. Why isn't it that they're not broken up? Because they own.
Because of Republicans.
But the Democrats, they own both of them, Joe. They own.
I'm saying we know what the Democrats are going to do. We know the Democrats like that. They like centralized power. Republicans who are supposed to favor, value, diffused power, widespread wealth. Okay, that's what I always thought Republicans and conservatives in particular, that's what they were in favor of. Okay, no, you're right. We know what the Democrats are going to do. The Republicans are supposed to fight BlackRock and fight Democrats. Instead, they're all in bed together.
And that's where the system, that's what a lot of people are talking about. That's why I elected Donald Trump. I wanted him to demolish that. He's done a lot of good things that I like. He didn't do that. And I got news for you. That has to go. You see, know what it is, Joe? Not enough people buy into what you and I just said. They still actually think that the system isn't rigged. And they just throw up their hands.
Well, Joe, if you live in a red state, let's call it what it is, okay? If you live in a red state in the poorer part of the state, whatever the case might be, and you live in either a modest home or you're renting or you're in a trailer home, and you think that everything going on is just A-okay and it's great because the Democrats are not in power right now, but in the meantime, you're living in a trailer park and you have no way out of it because you're not getting anywhere in this economy, but you still got your fist in the air saying, I voted for Donald Trump. I'll vote for him again. I'd vote for him again. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but you have to start opening your eyes to understand the Republicans are acting like they're your enemy too. Not because they overtly attack you like the Democrats do, all right? But the fact that they sit on their hands and do nothing to help you when they have the power to do it, and they dress it up in
I'll be honest,
political philosophy.
That's where you and I don't agree. I don't think they have the power to do it because they can't do it because their lobbies don't let them.
They have to break. See, Joe, we have this conversation all the time. When they have power, they could turn around and tell the lobbies to kick rocks.
But then they won't get elected. That's how they fund their campaign.
I don't agree. I think they would get elected even more if they turned around to the donors and said, "Look, I'm going to listen to the people."
The donors don't care about the people. The donors are above the people because they're insulated with a beaucoup money. They don't care about you and I. They're insulated. When you're worth $3 billion, it doesn't matter who the president is. It matters for us. They don't care about us. That is why Thomas Massie is unique because he's going to get elected no matter what. So he has like a free ticket to actually vote his conscience. But if you're like, I'm going to make it up, you're in a red state, you're in Texas, you're Ted Cruz. If Ted Cruz doesn't toe the line, he doesn't get any money and Beto O'Rourke beats him. Beto O'Rourke lost to Ted Cruz, but it wasn't double digits. He lost. Without funds, Ted Cruz loses that election, and he knows it. So he has to toe the line. That's what has to get dismantled. Because Thomas Massie is a unique guy. He's like the unicorn. He is in a district where he has 70% of the vote, because frankly, those people are dirt poor. He lives in a poor area. Thomas Massie. So ultimately, they're going to vote for him anyway. So he doesn't need the money. Everyone else does. You see, that's why Lindsey Graham is Lindsey Graham, because he needs the money. And that's what has to change. If that doesn't change, the country is going to continue to be moved away from us. If you look at the size of government, say 100 years ago versus now, it's maybe 30 times bigger. The government has grown exponentially. It's a blob, and we pay for it. That has to shrink. And I'll be truthful with you, that's the revolution. That's the revolution I'm looking for. That's how power comes back to people and subsidiarity comes back to people. And I'll be truthful with you. That's why I don't really take stock in Republican and Democrat terms anymore. I take stock in good and evil. Is it good or is it evil? I know that they don't represent me because they don't. They represent the money, the interests that fuel their machine. Listen to Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard breaks down. She has interviews. I've listened to them. A day in the life of a congressman. It's all they do is court cash. That's it. And that's Republican and Democrat. They're dogs. They don't represent us. But people either don't know that or they don't pay attention. You see, that's the thing. It's like the phrase, I'm going to vote harder. Well, you could vote or vote harder or not vote at all. Your interests still aren't represented in the budget.
Right.
The budget it's just a bunch of crap. And
Well,
and
evidently
I'll
they're
be
fighting
honest with
about
you, if that doesn't change, Joe, America has a very short life. You know, I, honestly, like the revolution on the other side has progressed really far. Socialism, hardcore globalism, no borders. You're talking like Antichrist language. That's like the signs of the Antichrist. I'm serious. Like this is what's really ramping up. Not enough people pay attention to it. They think when you say that you're crazy.
Right.
Like, but meanwhile, to be honest with you, their very middle class existence is slipping away from them.
Yeah.
Little
you're right.
by little by little. And to be honest with you, this is not 1982. It's not 1962. And again, I could talk to I'm blue in the face. Everyone gets flushed down the toilet together.
Well, one group I hope gets flushed down the toilet is the UN. So if you're just joining us here, at the front line with Joe and Joe, we're going the way in the breach. So we got a few things we want to show you tonight. You got Donald Trump at the UN. That was fun. Got a few clips from you from there. Canada evidently wants to throw you in jail for life for hate speech.
Crazy, dude.
If I thought my stomach couldn't sink anymore, wait till you see that clip. You got ICE is fighting back against these domestic terrorists. You have a brand new winner on the block for the guy who's going to give you the most agita out of all the Democrats. It's Hakeem Jeffries. Okay. I remember when he was a backbencher. Evidently, he rose through the ranks. Wonder how he did that. And now he's the spokesman for the Democrat Party. And the bottom line is that dude is nauseating. But here's the thing. The UN is nauseating also, but it's good to see some pushback.
But I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. And then he'd get...
I think if this is purely a guess, I think he specifically went after Obama because Obama went after Charlie Kirk. Because Obama was enlisted, okay? Because I thought about this. I mean, we've all done a lot of thinking about a lot of things over the last couple of weeks. Obama was enlisted to go out there and say, "Oh, this guy had kids, had a wife, had a family," but he was a racist. That's what Obama basically said. He said Charlie Kirk, basically was saying Charlie Kirk was a racist, but we got to feel bad because he had a wife and kids. So I think Trump specifically threw Obama in there. But Trump, he went up in front of the United Nations and telling them things that they don't really like to hear. And you want to know what? It's pretty damn refreshing.
Well, here's the thing. What I heard, I listened to some commentary on this. The teleprompter didn't work when he went up there. That was all ad hoc. I'll be honest with you. It could have been a mistake. I question that. I also heard that he asked his wife. She could not hear him unless you had earphones in your ear. The microphone was not working. We pay and don't quote me exactly on this, around 20% of their budget. And this is what America has to do. If you and the UN does not embrace democratic values of America, the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, Christians, and this is another clip from the UN. Trump talked about how Christians are persecuted. I haven't heard the UN. If they are going after those who are persecuting Christians, I applaud you. I have not heard it. That's all
Well,
I'm going to say.
Hold that thought only because
No,
we
but
do
what
have
I just want to say is if we're
No, I want
funding
you to know that we have 2 more clips
No, I
of
know
Trump.
that. I'm going to go in a different direction though. If we're funding the bill, a large portion of the bill, just like we're doing with NATO, and you don't share our values, you want to censor speech. You don't basically value freedom of religion, i.e. protecting minorities, religious minorities in places like Nigeria, in the Sudan. If you're not going to do that, we should not fund them. We should not. And that goes for realignments across the board. You talk about censorship, and we're going to get into this later. I heard a statistic in 2023. Great Britain has arrested 12,000 people for rogue, quote unquote, posts. 12,000, Joe. Yeah. That's the direction. And currently, Gavin Newsom has a bill that he could sign. It'll probably go to the Supreme Court and get knocked down, whereby it forces, just like what Canada has done, just like what France has done, it forces social media companies to do the censoring for them. And that's how they get around the Bill of Rights. That is not an American value because they know they have to control the narrative. And social media gets around that. And when they lose control of the narrative, they have to censor. They have to. Because if people are informed, they will turn on them, and they know it. And that is going on now in America. And we're going to be an ally of Great Britain when they're arresting people for expressing their views, calling it hate speech, when it's simply speech that goes against them. They don't agree with it. So you basically say, it's for the children. We have to protect the children. You're just, again, all you're doing is you don't agree with it. That's going on now.
Right.
Again, if that happens, Joe, I'll be truthful with you. The party's over. The party is over.
I think they realize they're probably not going to be able to get away with it in America, even though in America they really would like nothing more than to emulate Canada and Great Britain and other places where
the oligarchs want that.
If you gave your now they want it in America. I mean, I think the American people are feckless and cowardly a lot of the time. But I don't know if that's going to go over.
Are they paying attention? For instance, a lot of Republicans right now are using Charlie Kirk. Lindsey Graham is one of them, saying that hate speech has to stop. And why he's saying that? Because the people who give him money are telling him to. And they're using a crisis. Charlie Kirk, who was all about free speech, many Republican voices right now, including Pam Bondi, made a reference about hate speech. This is dangerous. They're basically labeling hate speech anything that they don't agree with.
Right.
It's exactly what is going on in the UK. And the Republicans are trying to do that right now. And that's a fact. Tucker Carlson did an 1.5-hour show. I listened to the whole thing today on freedom of speech. They're doing the same thing the left did. Because it's about the oligarchs. It threatens their power. And it's all about power. And again, do we see through that? Do we see through that? I don't think we do. I mean, I see through it. I see it as clear as day. I don't know if others do. Or if, and frankly, it'll be too late when you do. I've heard people like that I've had conversations with. The internet's too open. Well, that's where you're an adult. Just scroll past the parts that you don't want to hear.
Right.
That's it.
But no, I hear you. Let's keep going. Let's keep going with Trump calling out the scams and lies at the UN.
That all countries who find inspiration in our example will join us in renewing our commitment, values, and those values really that we hold so dear together. Let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity.
Somebody's got to say it. I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are saying it in amongst the all those social media types that everybody's trying to shut down. There's a lot of people that have been saying. There's a lot of people that we've interviewed on our show, and we've spoken about it. Christianity is the most persecuted religion in the world. No, the Jews are not the most persecuted people in the world. No, the Muslims are not the most persecuted people in the world. All right. The persecution is coming from Muslims and others towards Christianity. And in the United Nations, and this has always been the case, they're represented by groups of people that have no problem persecuting Christianity. I mean, at one point, I don't know what the Security Council looks like right now, but I think at one point, Iran, North Korea, and Cuba were all on the Security Council. You want to talk about persecuting Christians? You got them sitting right there. So I'm glad Trump went out there. I'm glad he went out there and told them exactly what's going on.
Well, you ask yourself, like, why, particularly Catholics, let's be honest, the churches are being burned. Canada, how many churches got burned? In France, how many churches got burned? In France, there've been a few priests that have been murdered.
Yeah.
Why? Why is it the Catholics? They're not for same-sex marriage. They're not for abortion. Those are drivers. And the progressive values, those are bedrock values, quote unquote, for the secular humanists. They're all about abortion. They're all women's rights. They're all about redefining marriage. And the church is not. And that's why, if you ask me, they turn a blind eye. They turn a blind eye to it. And again, where is the Catholic voice in that? You know, the enemy, you can't be friends with someone who wants to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if someone's trying to light your house on fire, you don't congratulate them when they strike the match.
Right.
You don't congratulate them when they're stalking your daughter. Like this is what I don't understand. Like, they're not our friends based upon their actions. Now, I'm not saying you don't talk to them, but you do have to call it out. You have to, because it's not going to stop if you don't. And there has to be a unified voice in that. And there's not.
Well, I wish there was something that we could see. Here's my problem, especially when it comes to foreign aid, because a lot of the countries that actually persecute Christians, we have very good trading relationships with them. We give them foreign aid. You talk about the Congress being bought and paid for. Every administration wants to make sure that they have a foreign aid budget, because that's what they use to negotiate with some of these countries. But how do you give money? And how do you have good relations with England when England is basically persecuting their own people?
Joe, I agree with you. I think there has to be realignments in the world. Even France, Brazil. Listen, we're not going, especially like organizations like NATO. NATO basically, in their charter, I'm paraphrasing, but you have to uphold democratic values. Limiting speech is anti-democratic. If you're going to do that, we're not going to support you financially. We're out of NATO. We're out of the UN. If you don't represent our values and our interests, the UN is in our country, on our soil. It's get out. And that is where, again, put your foot down. Like in all honesty, people have to basically they do not represent our interests. Now we're starting to have those conversations. J.D. Vance was very clear when he went to Germany and made that very clear. The EU is lost. Canada is lost when it comes to embracing democratic values. They are full on authoritative states, full on authoritarian states, full on.
Yeah.
Voted. I mean, like it's you can't even dispute it. So I mean, and this is what it's frustrating. Is this the direction people want to go? Because they're knocking at the door. They are. They're in the house. They are.
Yeah.
You see,
I don't know. I don't know sometimes, Joe, what motivates people. I don't want to be like the left and look at the American people and say, what are you thinking? Because that's what the left does. They look down their nose at people. But as my neighbor, as my fellow American, I like to say, what are you looking at?
I don't think
what are you looking at?
Know what it is? Honestly, they're not paying attention and they listen to mainstream media. They listen to ABC News. They don't dig. You have to dig to get the information. They're not going to give it to you. They're going to tell you what they want you to hear. And for many years, I was one of those people. For many years, it was just until the COVID era that my eyes were opened, as many people have been. Many. I'm not alone. There's many like me. More people have to get like that. Turn off Fox News. Turn off MSNBC. Do your own research. It doesn't take long. There's many smart people who are giving great insight on people, on like Joe Rogan's podcast. He has experts in all fields that are not basically filtered because of advertising dollars. Listen, that's all you have to do. With an open mind, and you'll start to question things. You'll start to look at things a little differently, and that's what more people have to do. But we don't, because to be truthful with you, we're too complacent. We have our little crumb, our little lawn, our SUV. We have some food in the refrigerator. That's not going to be there in 15, 20, 30 years. That's not how the rest of the world lives. And I got news for you. People just have to wake up to that reality. And Joe, like to your point, like what I think the answer is, my opinion, I don't bank on politics. I think communities have to get into a subsidiarity type of existence. What is that? The lowest common denominator. I always point to the Orthodox Jews. The Orthodox Jews live in cities. They live where the taxes aren't expensive. They have their own communities. They have their own schools. They take care of each other. You see, you can do that in the bluest of blue states and be perfectly fine. You could do that right under the nose of the authoritarian, right under their nose. But we don't do that.
Right.
We cut each other's throats. Meanwhile, that's not the enemy. No. The enemy is not your neighbor. You have to band together and form communities, strong communities. Why should I give money to the pagan plumber when I can give money to the Catholic plumber?
Right.
Who's going to give me a fair day's wage, a day's work, and I'm going to pay him a fair wage. Why should I give money to the pagan electrician or the pagan lawyer? Stick with your own and take care of each other. Families used to do that. They don't do that anymore.
Used to do it a lot.
And this is what I'm saying. There's the answer to this. You beat them. Because I don't trust the government. I don't trust any of them.
No, I agree 1,000%. The other way we're gonna beat them, you got to learn how to laugh a little bit. That's one thing, Joe, the left doesn't do. They have no sense of humor. That's why I like watching Trump.
I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much.
And that's all you're going to get from the United Nations. You don't think, like people say, oh, come on, it was just an accident. Are you kidding me? You remember the scene in Forrest Gump where they got the rally going on, the protest going on at the mall in Washington, and the general's up there, or Gump's up there talking, and all of a sudden the radical goes over to the speaker and pulls out all the wires, and then Trump goes into his speech and he doesn't realize nobody can hear him, right? And then they plug him back in at the end, and then you can hear him again. That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. These people, look, these people, they run countries where people don't even have cars. They don't allow them. They're so behind technologically and otherwise. They're not sophisticated people. So what do you think they're going to do? Stop the escalator. Maybe he'll break his neck and die, and maybe we'll kill Melania too in the process. They're savage. I'm sorry. They're savages. Many of those countries that are represented in the United Nations, they're nothing but savages. And what do they try to do? Stop an escalator and cut off the teleprompter.
Well,
Wow,
what we should
that's
do
really effective.
Again, you don't share our values, you don't get money. That's how it works. It's like your son. If your son abuses his privileges with the family car, you don't give him the keys. And that's how it works. We give them money. That's leverage. You don't want to share our values? Well, get out of New York. Go somewhere else. Go to The Hague. Go to Brussels. Get lost. And that's what we should do. Like we have a lot of leverage. And that's one of many things I like with Trump. Use it. And tell them at least he's addressing it. Some people were appalled at what he said. No, I'm not appalled because he's saying the truth. He's saying the truth and he's calling them out. And then that's the start. If you don't say something, it's going to continue. You address it. You know what I'm saying? And yes, again, the thing is, Joe, people, they hate Trump no matter what. It's not about the country. It's about, I hate Donald Trump because he's not pushing forth my agenda. And that has to stop.
Can I say something a little that's going to sound off, all right? But let me preface it this way. I am not comparing Donald Trump to Jesus. Please let me say that right off the bat. I am not comparing Donald Trump to Jesus. But why do people hate Christians? Because they hate Christ.
100%.
I don't care. I don't care what they say. Their reason is, oh, Christians act poorly. Everybody acts poorly. So what are you talking about? Okay. Of course, there's Christians, and we're all sinners. That's part of what being a Christian, how we understand the Christian worldview is that I'm a sinner and I have a savior. Okay. But they hate Christ first. And on the political level, especially in America, yes, they hate us, but they hate him. They hate Donald Trump. They hate Donald Trump because basically, because he gives us a voice. So so that's why they hate him so much. And you know where I'm going with that?
No, I do.
Again,
I mean, a lot of this, Joe, has to do with Christianity. Again, it goes back to abortion. It goes back to same-sex marriage. Like, it's not political. At the root of a lot of the hatred is the hatred of Christian values.
Yeah.
A lot of it. It's just masked. And because people don't want to change or comport to them. And that's just a fact.
And why is it that these people that love to call everybody else racist, their main victims are people in Africa and people of color? If you look at let's say, for argument's sake, the zeal with which the Christian religion in general and the Catholic religion in particular is practiced in Africa, we know why they hate those people. There's that great video. Me and my son joke about it all the time. But this, to me, this guy, this reporter, I don't know if you saw the video, right? He's in African. I forgot what country it is. And he's got a guest on. He says, welcome, with his African accent. And then he looks, he's got this transgender activist on. And and he looks at her. I think it was a her. He looks at her. He says, "So, why are you gay?" And it's all over social media. It's hysterical. But see, now I'm going somewhere with this. The elitists who hate Christianity think that that guy's a moron, unsophisticated, uneducated. You know the litany of things that guy is. In the meantime, what he is a Christian of common sense. Why are you gay? Why are you gay? All right. And then they'll come over with it. But that's a legit question to ask. And then the person responds, "Who says I'm gay?" He says, "You are gay." And they go back and forth. But my larger point is, yeah, because when you look at things simply because you know them by the natural law, you know that something's wrong. Sometimes it's just as simple as saying, "Yeah, why are you gay?" Or to a boy, "What did you say? What are you talking about? You think you're a woman?" We have friends of ours. All right, I'm obviously not going to say their name. I was talking to the husband one time. He says, "Yeah, my daughter came up to me. I think it was last year. She says, 'I think I'm transgendered.'" He says, "Okay, go get me the remote control." He goes, like 2 months later, she was over it. I didn't hear about it again. Like, not that he didn't take it seriously, but the idea is, yeah, okay, what are you talking about? Get out of here. Just give me the remote control. And this is an educated guy who loves his daughter, obviously, but kind of like sometimes you just have to look at it like, okay, all right, whatever. Is it how many boys when they were growing up on Halloween dressed up as a girl? Nowadays, they'd want to put that boy on puberty blockers, by the way.
Well, I think
You
a
know what I
lot of
mean?
it is a lot of kids are looking to belong. Like when we were kids, you had the punk thing, then that turned into the goth thing. I think some kids, why I think a lot of those numbers have spiked is those kids that maybe didn't fit in to certain groups, they're fitting in to this group. There's some of that. And then there's obviously a lot of frankly, there's abuse a lot of in that community. It stems from a lot of it. That's
And in that case,
documented. That's documented, but that's a conversation for another day. I mean, ultimately, Joe, a lot of the disputes are religious under the politics, under it. It is. It's just a fact. I say this to my wife all the time. How many daily communicants? Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. How many daily communicants are voting for people who want to trans kids? How many? Do you know anyone? I don't. Daily communicants, people who go to confession, people who receive the Eucharist in a state of grace are voting for people who stand for that. None.
yeah,
And
I'm
this
with
is
you.
my point. Like we're off because of that. All that, it's not a political issue. And that goes for wealthy daily communicants to poor daily communicants, educated daily communicants to ignorant ones. It's
Right.
not one group. It's just because they can see clearly.
But the thing is, you talk about seeing clearly, and this goes back to what we said earlier, and this is why sometimes I in a very brotherly way, we push back on each other. Sometimes I do think that things could change with the American people with their eyes open, even when it comes to all the money in Washington and everything else. My attitude is, if one Thomas Massey can get elected, 450 Thomas Masseys
Well,
can
I'll
get
tell you
elected.
what, where we agree is if enough people, because then it wouldn't matter with the money, because you'd vote. If you had, say, 70% of the population with eyes open, no longer identifying one way politically or the other, seeing things as they are, yes, America would change.
Do you know how I'm not saying it would be easy, all right? I have a feeling, because we got a bunch of clips for you tonight here at the front line with Joe and Joe. We still want to talk about going to jail for life in Canada, ICE getting attacked, or actually ICE doing the attacking against Antifa and that disgraziad Hakeem Jeffries. So we're going to talk about it all at the front line with Joe and Joe. Do you know how? I'm not saying it would be easy, Joe Rossinello, but you want to know what I would do? Because I don't care. I'm poor. Okay. When I say poor, I'm not poor. The Lord gives me everything. If you could wake up every day and you have food, shelter, clothing, and you can get out and go to work and provide for your family, you're not poor. You know where I'm going with that. But I'm like every other American. All right. We're just regular guys. Okay. But I don't care if somebody dangled big money in front of my face. If I was in Congress and somebody said, you won't get reelected if you don't do what I tell you to do, like if Mike Johnson came up to me, you know what I would do? Do you honestly know what I would do? I swear I know I would do this. If I was in the House, I would look Mike Johnson right in the face. I would say, everything you do, if you don't listen to a word I say, I promise I'm going on Joe Rogan. I'm going on Tucker Carlson. I'm going to go on every big social media platform there is, and I'm going to tell the American people exactly what goes on in here, and I'm going to mention you by name.
Well, that's
So
what
watch
Tulsi Gabbard
your
did that.
butt.
I mean,
Right.
basically that's what she did.
But
Tulsi
you need. Go ahead, Joe.
No, but I mean, like Tulsi Gabbard was given the fast track in Congress from Obama, and she gave it back. The key, she wouldn't go along. You see, like, frankly, I don't know her, but she had some principles. And frankly, I think, listen, Joe, being in Congress, you get rich. Many, many, many of those people get rich as a member of Congress. And frankly, some of them, obviously I don't know their heart. I'm not going to mention names. Some people probably go into it in an altruistic way, and then they say, you can't beat the system. And then they just go along to get along. And many of them get very, very rich. And the math doesn't add up. Look at the salaries, look at the lifestyle. Frankly, Joe, that's just theft. And again, Americans are just fine with it. Right. And if you don't address it, it's going to keep going on. It's just going to keep going on. Charles Schumer, just to use an example, how long has he been in the Senate? Look at his net worth. Lindsey Graham, how long has he been in the Senate? Look at his net worth. I mean, do the math. Joe Biden, how long was he in politics? 50 years. He never had a private sector job. Look at his net worth. How does that happen? Bernie Sanders. I could just keep going on and on and on and on. If you don't address that, why do you possibly think that that's going to stop? It's not.
No, you're right. You're right. What else is not going to stop is we talked about persecution of Christians. How about just the persecution of people who just express their opinion?
With the hate penalty first. So if you're found guilty of an indictable offense, a maximum penalty under the hate crime, it will be a 5 years. If the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 2 years or more, but less than 5 years. 10 years if the maximum term of imprisonment is included offense is 5 years or more, but less than 10 years. 14 years if the maximum term of imprisonment is the included offense is 10 years or more, but less than 14 years. And life if the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 14 years or more, and up to imprisonment for life.
Do you hear that?
Dude, that's nuts. I mean, should America hear that? I mean, like,
this is where Donald Trump, this is where Donald Trump, if he wants to be Trumpian, okay, he needs to, like, that's Canada. Am I right?
Yes, it is.
That clip is Canada. So he gets Carney on the phone and said, listen. I'm really not supposed to get involved in your internal politics, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to make life really freaking miserable for you if you pass anything remotely like that and you send somebody to jail for speaking their mind about anybody or anything. Well, and by the way, that includes Jews, that includes Muslims, that includes anybody. I could say whatever I want about anybody at any time as long as I'm not inciting violence. Okay, I could say whatever I want with no fear of going to jail.
Do you know this happened 2 times in America? It was taken to court and it was ruled legal, where Nazis dressed up like Nazis protested in Jewish neighborhoods, and 2 different times the Supreme Court said, you can do that. Freedom of speech. That is a reality. What they're basically saying, I'm giving an extreme under the umbrella of freedom of speech. What you can't do in America is say, go out and kill Joe Pasillo. Go out and kill Donald Trump. You can't do that. You can't incite violence directly, giving instruction. Go out and set the White House on fire. You can't say that. But that was an extreme example that happened 2 times in the history of America, taken to the Supreme Court, and it was ruled legal. What they're basically saying is you can say things that offend somebody and you can go to jail. And I said this earlier in the show, 12,000 people in the UK are in prison in England for tweeting, for putting something on Facebook, simply because the powers that be don't agree with it. That is how they take away your power, because that umbrella just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. You're offending this one. That's hate speech. Well, I got news for you. It could come right down to, if you don't vote a certain way, that could be viewed as hate speech. And frankly, in many corners of America, it is.
Right.
You're a fascist. You're deplorable because you voted for Donald Trump. You're a horrible person.
Remember something. What is considered hate speech, because hate speech, number one, is a communist Marxist social construct used to be able to shut people down and stop people from speaking mainly about them and criticizing them. So when it comes to, and then they'll use all their proxy warriors. So whether it's the black liberal establishment, which is one group of proxy warriors, whether it's homosexuals, that's another group of proxy warriors, transgenders, that's another group of proxy warriors, the radical feminists, another group of proxy warriors. They want to make it where, I know this is going to go over really bad. Okay. Let me keep going where I was. The point is, hate speech is then defined as whatever any of those groups says that they're offended by.
That's what that's exactly right.
Right.
And to be honest with you, that's a dangerous rabbit hole.
Right.
A dangerous rabbit hole to
well,
go
here,
down.
And I know it's unpopular, okay, but maybe nowadays it's popular, okay. Joe and I, we don't beat up on the Jews. We have no reason to do that, okay. Joe and I are kind of equal opportunity in those who we criticize. Candace Owens asked Rabbi Barkley, okay. She said, "Could you define it?" He was basically calling her an anti-Semite, all right, on her show, and she said, "Can you define for me anti-Semitism?" And he says, "Well, it's fluid." Wrong answer, Rabbi. I'm sure there's an objective answer that you could give, but you can't say it's fluid, because then what you're really saying is, we'll decide once it comes out of your mouth whether or not it's anti-Semitic. So does that mean criticism of American foreign policy towards Israel
To
is
some, it does.
anti-Semitic? It doesn't mean that when, like Michael Jones, listen, before it was fashionable, let's you and I be clear. This way everybody knows that, we've been watching this for a long time. Everybody's on the beat up on Israel bandwagon, okay? And they're widely basing it on the treatment of the people in Gaza, okay? Rightfully so. Michael Jones was saying this 20 years ago. They called him an anti-Semite, all right? When he said, "How is it that Israel could retaliate with this overwhelming force," okay? And really doing the same thing then that they're doing now. So Michael Jones was saying this a long time ago. My larger point is, that's a perfect example of Rabbi Barkley, who is a conservative Jewish rabbi. He is a conservative Jew, okay? He prayed at Dodger Stadium with the Catholics against the what was it, the blasphemous nuns thing that was going on there, okay? I got no problem with Rabbi Barkley. My problem with Rabbi Barkley, if I had one, is no, Rabbi. No, anti-Semitism has to be defined so we know what it is. Just like racism, just like what they say is statements made against homosexuals or transgenders or people. It has to be clearly defined. And you can't just say in law, we're just going to call it hate speech. And then we'll figure out later on whether or not we're pissed off enough about it to send you to jail. That's what that guy was saying in Canada.
Depending on the danger of it. And that's very dangerous. That's basically how the oligarchs control the masses. That is how they control people. You will not criticize me. You will not say a word against the power that runs this country. Because frankly, that's the whole idea of freedom of the press, freedom of speech. It gives power to regular people. And now you have the internet. shows like us, we get maybe, 3,000 views on a show like this in a given week, give or take. And then there are people who get 3 million views saying similar things. There's power there. They want to curtail that power because they know they have to control the messaging. They have to control the messaging. It has nothing to do with hate speech. It has nothing to do with protecting the children. It has everything to do with solidifying their power.
No, listen, you're
That's exactly right.
And Zach, by the way, Zach's in the chat room. A lot of our friends are in the chat room tonight. Tim, I'm sorry, Tim. Tim's in the chat room, wants to know about the
Universal ostrich farm.
Yeah, but Tim, we quite frankly can't comment because we don't know enough about it. We'd help you. We love you. But here's the thing. Zach says, so one day the Bible is going to be anti-Semitic. Zach, I don't know if you've heard. In Europe, I believe it was the European Jewish Congress wants to ban the Gospel of St. John. So we can't say it's far-fetched that they'd want to ban the Bible. You see, the homosexuals, they would want to ban the entire Bible. The Jews, in this case, not all Jews, but certainly the European Jewish Congress, they want to ban the Gospel of John, which would probably mean banning the entire New Testament at some point in the future. Everybody's got their thing they want to ban. That's why hate speech is such a bad thing, because it's just everybody looking for an excuse to say that whatever comes out of your mouth, I don't want it to come out of your mouth, and I'm going to have the law say it ought not come out of your house. And in Canada, evidently, if you say it enough,
you get life in prison.
Life in prison. Now, and this is right? No, this is absolutely not right. So anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. ICE is fighting back. So we won't stay too long on that topic because I want to get to Hakeem Jeffries, Joe, but I will tell you this, exactly what Antifa deserves.
Joe,
in America, when we were growing up, we were taught not only don't you shoot police officers, not only do you not try to attack police officers, okay? When a police officer says to do something, your best bet is to just do it, okay? If you're in the right, okay, some cops are jerks, and you might get inconvenienced, you might get arrested, you might spend the night in jail, because we know some cops overstep their bounds, okay? Do what they say 99% of the time, okay? Most of the time they let you go, even sometimes, many times for speeding tickets and things like that. But do what they tell you to do. That's what we were taught, okay? These guys want to go up in front of ICE agents and start protesting, and you know they're about to get violent because it's Antifa, and you know what happens? ICE is going to drag your ass off and put you in jail.
Well, that's what
and
has
leave you
to
there
happen.
for a while.
Recently, there was what's it called? A shooting at a situation similar to that that happened recently. And Gavin Newsom basically wants to create a law where they can't wear masks. Why would you do that, Gavin Newsom? You're putting their life at stake.
Yeah, brother. Well, he's going to come up with some sort of creative
But
excuse.
that is exactly because it's to take away their power. Again, people have to see through this and call him out on it. Here's the deal. You are free to protest. You are not free to hurt people. You are not free to break things or damage property or set fires to things. And if you do, you will be arrested without apology. And until the behavior gets better, that is the way it has to be. Because then you don't have a civilization.
Right.
It's that simple. This is
I really thought you were going to say the beatings will continue.
Well, no, but this is the deal. I mean, I'm all for you protesting. Good. Make your voices heard. Do it, man. But here's the deal. You can't threaten people. You can't hurt people. You can't shoot people.
Can I allude to something that yeah, I think I used the right word. I want to allude to something you said earlier about being able to protest, and as long as you're not hurting anybody. When you were talking about the Ku Klux Klan, the Klan, this was years ago, wanted to march in Skokie, Illinois, okay, which is a predominantly Jewish town, Skokie, Illinois. And people were fighting against it. Well, the Klan can't do that. They can't go through Skokie. Okay. Now, quite frankly, the Ku Klux Klan doesn't have a lot of love in their hearts. In fact, quite the opposite for Roman Catholics.
Oh, absolutely.
So it would be very easy for me to be offended if growing up in Newark, the Klan wanted to go down Bloomfield Avenue. I don't know how far they would have gotten before a bunch of Goombas decided to, run into the middle of Bloomfield Avenue and end it. But let's keep it in the legal area for a minute. Now, the ACLU, of all people, maybe one of the only things the ACLU that ever did was right. They defended the Klan, and they argued for their right to free speech. They went there. They marched. The Jews hated it, and so would I have hated it. Okay, but nonetheless, they were allowed to have their march, and the ACLU defended their right to do so. And so, the main difference, though, is the Klan knew that now they better not get out of line. If they're going to have their march, have your march, and then go home. With Antifa and Black Lives Matter and the rest of them, they don't want to march. They're not interested in free speech. They're interested in hurting people and breaking things. That's why Kyle Rittenhouse picked up a gun and had to shoot one of them. That's why this ICE officer had to grab this Antifa thug and drag him off to a prison cell, okay, and other actions like that. That's why Donald Trump's got to be ready. Well, Donald Trump already declared Antifa.
Yeah, that was fine and good. And, some people are actually pushing back on that. What is the pushback? You can't hurt people. You can't threaten people. That is not American. You can protest. You cannot. Do I even have to say this? And that's why, to be honest with you, you want to behave like an animal, you're going to be treated like one. Right. And that is how it works. You cannot have a society. If it's there has to be consequences. That's not political. If the Republicans were doing it, I would say the same thing.
Right.
If Catholics were doing it, I would say the same thing. Yet they don't see it that way. They want to scare you. This is what this is about. It's a scare tactic. Stop saying what you're saying, or else.
Right.
And they want you to stop. That's what this is. That's not America.
Oh, I wish people would get it through their heads, Joe. Well, here's a guy I wish wasn't in America, but unfortunately he is an American citizen. And for me, again, he wants to criticize people on the right for having too much power. I don't like the fact that this guy's got power.
In the history of this country, and Donald Trump and these extremists have been destroying its integrity. And we should also blame the conservative justices on the Supreme Court for all of the things that we see happening, because they basically gave this president blanket presidential immunity in a country where the framers of the Constitution said we don't want a king. But they've effectively enabled Donald Trump at times to behave just like a king. And that needs to be revisited as well. The Supreme Court, shame on them for what they've done.
Shame on Hakeem Jeffries.
What is he talking about?
Joe, he's the male version of Kamala Harris. He's a word salad type of guy. Might be able to string a bombastic statement, like a few words together to make a point that his donors and his puppet handlers want him to say. Trump's a king. Oh, by the way, and these extremists. He's not inciting violence against people who voted for Donald Trump. There's another example of a Democrat politician attacking those who voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump and these extremists. Who are they? 2 days ago, Hillary Clinton warned against white guys of a certain religious persuasion. Who the hell do you think she's talking about?
No, but how could you get, dude, that is such a dangerous statement made publicly. Horrible.
Then they want to talk about let's lower the temperature.
Jeffries it has nothing to do with any of that. And you know it.
He just called you and I extremists because we voted for Donald Trump.
Dude, you are extremists because we're Catholic. That's a fact. Just because you go to church. You can't even say that in some circles of America. You can't even say that.
Right.
You're immediately labeled. Never mind get into the minutia of what the church teaches. We're in a very dangerous place. And here's the thing, he's not alone.
No,
People
no,
elect this man. They elect this man.
Yeah,
And to be
they
honest
do.
with you, Donald Trump, in many ways, is a moderate. And in my book, he doesn't go far enough.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that sound?
No,
Donald Trump
that sounds.
doesn't go far enough.
And by the way, you catch the threat against the Supreme Court. He says, "Shame on the Supreme."
Oh
Shame on
my
the Supreme
gosh,
Court."
that's
Dude,
absurd.
I hate to get ad hominem on the guy. It's like you and Clarence Thomas keeping it with skin color like you always like to do, Hakeem. It's all about race, right? If you were in a, you can't be in the same room as Clarence Thomas. You can't breathe the same air as Clarence Thomas. There's a Supreme Court that is going against 100 years or more of liberal left control, going back to FDR. So let's say 80 to 90 years. Going back to FDR, going back to the 1930s. You have a Supreme Court that's finally, after all this time, is bringing the court back to sanity, and this guy's trying to blame the court for giving Donald
Because it's
Trump
not
more power.
about justice, Joe. It's about my justice. You see, that's how that's a sad reality. Justice is seen through a myopic lens. Justice is supposed to be blind.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I agree with you. Here, let's stick with Hakeem.
To understand, as people who are flirting with the Trump administration or doing the bidding of the Trump administration or engaging in the pay-to-play schemes of the Trump administration, the statute of limitations is 5 years. Donald Trump and this toxic administration will be long gone, but there will still be accountability to be had. And that process, of course, begins now, but it will not be complete until perhaps there is an independent Department of Justice, certainly an independent House of Representatives in Democratic hands. The Department of Justice is one of the great institutions in law enforcement in the history of this country, and Donald Trump and these extremists have been destroying its integrity.
You know that James Comey got indicted, right?
I did not, but I did know that he tweeted to Bondi that she should move on that. I saw that.
And if the reports are true that I heard, James Comey's been indicted. No, Mr. Jeffries, the Justice Department, particularly since Barack Obama, even going before that, has been the enemy of the American people. We know that now, Mr. Jeffries. They are not. They were not independent. They are going to be made independent by Donald Trump, but they were not independent. They were working with the White House, and we know that because it was the Department of Justice that was colluding with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and James Comey and the CIA to make sure that Donald Trump didn't get elected and keep promoting the Russia conspiracy hoax. Sorry, Mr. Jeffries. I know you're speaking to people who you think are completely stupid. And I know about you probably, not probably, I know you think in your mind and in your heart that Joe and I are completely stupid, but we're not. We're not. We see through all your bullshit, and you're not going to be in control. The more Trump keeps getting back into good graces after the big ugly bill with the people that voted for him, the more you're not going to get the midterms. You're not going to get the House in the midterms. All right, and keep pushing the shit that you're pushing. Keep doing what Rob Schneider said in our opening clip. Keep pushing the idea that the economy is great. In other words, and people can't buy food, or boys can become girls, and all the rest of it. Keep pushing it. Go ahead. The only one's going to get elected because you're in a safe district, dude. You're in a safe district. But in the close districts, in Virginia and in Georgia and in the South, in the close purple districts, you know what? You ain't going to get those seats. And Trump is going to gerrymander.
You just took the words out of my mouth. Barack Obama just tweeted something. He got 10,000 views on it, basically saying that we're rigging the system. The system was rigged. It's getting unrigged. When you have states like Massachusetts, where 40%, 38% are conservative, and you have no representatives, that's a rigged system. It's getting unrigged, Barack. And he knows, because I told you, whenever he comes out of his hole, they're in trouble. He knows they're done. if that actually happens. And by the way, the census is coming up soon, and they're not supposed to count people who are not documented. If that goes down, he knows they're done.
Right.
They're done. And that is what scares the heck out of him.
Well, let's hope we get a bunch of Thomas Masseys in there instead of a bunch of Lindsey Grahams at the end of the day, Joe Russell. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. They know. Look, remember we played a couple of weeks ago, Beto O'Rourke? Talking about, well, we punch harder. No, you already did, Beto, you dope. In other words, what do you think? This is a reaction to the fact, and who said it? I think it was J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance said, he goes, you already rigged all these states. You know you can't go any further. You've gone as far as you can to disenfranchise Republicans and make sure that Republicans in blue states don't have any representation. You've gone as far as you can. Republicans have not. Now Republicans are going to play your game. And guess what? I don't really care if Texas has a Democrat representative. I don't care if Alabama doesn't have one. I don't care if Mississippi doesn't have one. All the red states, you should have zero Democrat representation. They should rig. Rig. If they want to rig it, we'll rig it.
Well, no,
there
just
will
make
be
it
one
fair.
Democrat.
To be honest with you, if there's a small circle of a Democratic population in Alabama, let them have the right representation. But you have to be fair. And Massachusetts should have more than a couple. Same with California. And that's all I'm asking for. Because in a fair fight, they lose.
Right.
They can't, Joe, they have nothing. Their arguments, that's why Charlie Kirk is dead. Because he was effective. That's why he's dead. They have no arguments. None. And if the fight is fair, if information is getting filtered properly to the people, if the districts are accounted for properly, if the voting is with paper ballots and ID and in-person voting, fair, reasonable, common sense controls, this is not political, people, they don't have a chance.
Right.
And that is the truth.
Yep.
And they call it every which way to spin it, to blame it. You're this, you're that. No, I just want common sense controls and a fair playing field. And in that arena, they lose every time.
I agree 1,000%. We got a clip for you. We're going to play on the way out. We want to thank you for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. You get a chance, go over to X, Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching us on our page. Just posted a great half hour with Taylor Marshall. And we were very honored to have Dr. Marshall on, and we discussed Christian Patriot, his new book that he has out, 12 Ways to Create One Nation Under God. So I would highly recommend reading that book. It's a good blueprint for all that we need to do. So we definitely recommend that. So we'll be around next week for another great conversation Thursday nights, 9:00 Eastern time at the front line with Joe and Joe. Share our videos, help us out, like and subscribe as well. And remember until then that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.
Concern about rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Many scientists claim that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere has been rising over the past 100 years, that the great sheets of pack ice in Antarctica are melting at a much more rapid rate than previously. And finally, that the sea level has been rising with increasing swiftness over the past 40 years. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas all over the world. Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. The American farm belt might be too dry, and the wheat and corn crops would have to move to Canada. Scientists blame the odorless, colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes around the planet. It is the greenhouse effect. The gas allows sunlight to filter down and warm the Earth. But like the glass of a greenhouse, the carbon dioxide tends to trap heat so that it cannot rise into space. The scientists maintain that the coal, oil, and gas we've been burning for 100 years have produced more and more carbon dioxide and helped overheat the Earth. Now, some political leaders endorse the demands for more CO2 monitoring stations, like this one in Hawaii. And they share the anger of the scientists at Reagan administration budget cuts at a time when they feel closer to getting definitive answers.
We are not doing the kind of research that we should be doing to determine whether or not these scientists who are so alarmed are correct in their assessment.
And what they find out will affect the lives and fortunes of millions of people, the very survival of cities like this one. David Culhane, CBS News, New York.